You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast, episode 546. Someone to Watch Over Me.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Nana Visitor, sitting in for the wonderful Dorman Lau. Each week on Mission Log, we examine an episode of Star Trek, going on an emotional journey of exploring the morals, meanings, and messages, and asking ourselves, does this episode stand the test of time?
Does it indeed? This week, Someone to Watch Over Me, the one where Seven is trying to learn about love, but it's the Doctor who needs the lesson. Welcome to Mission Log, Nana Visitor. I am so happy to have you here.
Yeah, me too, John. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Oh, so I feel like it's such a cliche to say that you need no introduction, certainly to our audience who followed us over the years that it took to cover DS9 episode by episode. They are well familiar with your work. But what a thrill to be able to cover a series and an episode from a series that you were not a part of and maybe just kind of take a step away from it. Had you watched much Voyager before we got here?
I hadn't watched any of the shows until I wrote the book. Yeah. And then I watched all of the shows, and in an intense amount of time. And what's interesting is I watched Someone to Watch Over Me thinking that it was going to be a woman-centric 7 of 9 episode. And actually, it's something very different.
It is. Can't wait to pick this apart with you. All right. Well, if you would be so kind to let our audience know where they can reach us.
Mission Log is a conversation about Star Trek. Find the show at Mission Log at Roddenberry.com and on X and Facebook at Mission Log Pod. While you're at it, a review and rating at Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform makes a big difference to the podcasts you love. So just bother to do it. Always remember, your comments could be used on Mission Log. The Roddenberry Industrial Complex will not be denied.
We'll get right back to Someone to Watch Over Me after a quick word about Open a Channel.
If you've ever wondered how Star Trek influenced the role of women in television and beyond, our friend and this week's co-host, Nana Visitor, has some incredible insights for you in her brand new book, Star Trek, Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek.
That's right, Nana, who you all know as Major Kira Nerys from Deep Space Nine, takes us on a journey through 60 years of Star Trek history, exploring how the series portrayed and influenced women both in front of and behind the camera.
Open a Channel features exclusive interviews with some of your favorite Star Trek icons like Kate Mulgrew, Sonequa Martin-Green, Terry Farrell, and Gates McFadden. Plus, you'll hear from other incredible women, from astronauts to soldiers, who were inspired by Star Trek's vision of equality and empowerment.
Now, I love that it's not just about Star Trek's past, but also about how it continues to shape our future. You'll learn how Nichelle Nichols' casting as Lieutenant Uhura in the 60s was a game-changer for women and people of color, and how it inspired future generations, both on screen and in real life.
Nana even spoke with astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti while she was aboard the International Space Station. Talk about taking Star Trek's ideals to the next level, literally.
Now, whether you're a lifelong Trekkie or just curious about how storytelling can influence society, Open a Channel is packed with inspiring stories and thoughtful reflections on the role of women in Star Trek and beyond.
You can grab your copy of Star Trek Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek by Nana Visitor wherever books are sold, like Amazon.com, or head over to InsideEditions.com or SimonandSchuster.com. And don't forget to leave a review. Nana would love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. Star Trek Open a Channel. It's a journey through time, space, and the evolving role of women in one of the most iconic franchises in history. Don't miss it. Star Trek Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek by Nana Visitor. We have a story by Brannon Braga. And Brannon has described this bottle show as a favor to him to do a light, character-based piece with very little in the way of hard sci-fi, very few effects, etc. So kind of nice to slow things down for an episode like this one. The teleplay is by Michael Taylor, and I always love to point out that Michael was responsible for some of DS9's finest moments, like The Visitor and In the Pale Moonlight, before making the jump over to Voyager. The most recent episode of his that we discussed here on Mission Log was Think Tank. The episode was directed by Robert Duncan McNeil, and Robbie, by this point, had directed 2 other episodes of Voyager, Sacred Ground and Unity, as well as the short film Battery, featuring Ethan Phillips. From this point on, he directs 1 more episode of Voyager in Season 7, and then his directing career kicks into high gear and has not stopped to this day. Let's meet our guest stars. We have a handful of notable guests this week. Seven's first date, a hologram called Stephen Price, is played by David Burke. Now, by the time of this episode, David had already been making the rounds in TV guest appearances, and he was a regular in the one-season sitcom The Crew. The TV spots kept coming quickly after Voyager, even though this is his only Trek appearance. Some in our audience may recognize David as Arthur in the criminally short-lived live-action version of The Tick, starring Patrick Warburton. Seven's other date, Chapman, the human, was played here by Brian McNamara, also prolific in TV guest roles consistently since the 1980s. You may remember Brian in the 1986 feature Short Circuit, and he may be best known as one of the leads in all 7 seasons of Army Wives. This is his only Trek appearance thus far. And time to meet the Cadi. The Abbot is played by Ian Abercrombie. Now, technically, this is the first time we have seen Ian in Star Trek, but we heard his voice before when in the Season 4 episode TNG Family. It was Ian who dubbed the voice for actor Jeremy Kemp, who played Robert Picard. But Ian's career goes all the way back to World War II era England, where as a child he learned to work the stage as an actor and a dancer. He made his way to the U.S. in the 1950s, and his first stage role here was in Stalag 17. TV and film followed after a brief time drafted by the Army and much more stage work. In the 90s, he turned up everywhere, from Seinfeld to Buffy to Babylon 5. He played Alfred in the also gone too soon superhero series Birds of Prey. And later in his career, he recurred as Headmaster Crumbs in Wizards of Waverly Place, and even provided the voice of Palpatine in Star Wars Clone Wars. We lost Ian in 2012. Finally, Toman is played by another very busy actor, Scott Thompson. Canadian-born, Scott picked up some small on-screen roles in the early 80s, but it was joining an improv theater that would lead him to his longest-running gig as one of the original actors and writers on Kids in the Hall, Lorne Michaels' own Canadian sketch comedy show. Scott played innumerable characters on Kids in the Hall, likely one of the most memorable being the openly gay monologuist Buddy Cole. And while Kids in the Hall reform for various reunions and documentaries, Scott also appears on any number of TV guest spots, recently turning up in Reno 911, Zombie Town, and Sugar Highs. And so far, this is Scott's only Star Trek appearance.
If your love life leaves you feeling hollow, you're in the right place. We have a whole holodeck for that.
Prologue. In Voyager's mess hall, Tom and B'Elanna are enjoying a romantic dinner over one of Tom's insufferable stories about driving a '69 Mustang. But they can't help but notice Seven sitting nearby, taking notes and eyeing them intently. B'Elanna finally confronts her, only to learn that Seven's been documenting their human mating behavior, complete with logs of their arguments and intimate relations. B'Elanna threatens to give Seven an up-close look at Klingon aggression, and it takes both Neelix and Tom to calm things down. Act 1. Janeway prepares in her ready room for her first meeting with representatives of the Cadi. She talks to Seven about the incident with B'Elanna, suggesting that maybe Seven should try dating herself. First-hand experience might be more useful than just observing others. Soon after, Janeway, Tuvok, and Neelix greet the Kadi representatives in the transporter room. The Abbot will escort Janeway and Tuvok to the planet to negotiate trade, leaving Ambassador Toman in Neelix's care. Neelix is determined to give Toman a true Voyager experience, sans anything too flavorful, of course, to accommodate the Kadi's puritanical tastes. As Toman explores Voyager with Neelix, he turns down the technical tour and expresses interest in trying some food. To Neelix's surprise and great interest, Toman wants to try Hasperat and other flavorful dishes, so it's off to the mess hall. Over in sickbay, the doctor gives Seven her regular checkup and nudges her toward dating, suggesting it'll help her better understand the human experience. When Seven agrees, the doctor takes on the role of mentor, kicking off a series of holodeck lessons with a slideshow called Love Amid the Stars, which covers mating rituals from everything from humans to species 8472. To make things more practical, the doctor transforms the holodeck into Chez Sandrine. After a few scripted encounters, the doctor tests Seven's skills with a holodate. As Seven awkwardly interacts with a holographic suitor, Tom enters, and he and the doctor start betting on whether Seven can manage a real date without causing a diplomatic incident at the upcoming Kadi reception. Tom bets she won't. The doctor thinks, wouldn't it be lovely if she does? The stakes? Tom's extra sickbay shifts. Act 2. Toman is having the time of his life in the mess hall, surrounded by plates of food. Neelix brings him yet another treat, Katarian pudding. Toman dives in, late for his tour of engineering, and decides to skip the call for prayer that his people usually follow. Meanwhile, the doctor's lessons with Seven continue. This time they're delving into hobbies. Seven's intrigued by music, and after she perfectly sings a scale, the doctor teaches her, "You Are My Sunshine." Seven's initial emotionless rendition gives way to a duet with the doctor, and as they harmonize, the doctor seems momentarily lost in an emotion of his own. Next, Seven tries to find a real-life date, narrowing down her choices from the crew manifest with a little bit of bloomin' luck, and with Harry's unsolicited help. Harry's not on the list if anyone was interested. She settles on Lieutenant Chapman and boldly asks him out while he's working in a Jeffries tube. He accepts her awkward but sincere invitation and reports the good news to the doctor. Act 3. The doctor tells Tom, "Just you wait, Seven has a date," and he's confident that means Tom will be pulling double shifts in sickbay in no time. Tom points out that the doctor may be just a little enamored of Seven himself, which the doctor naturally denies. Later in Cargo Bay 2, the doctor preps Seven for her date. She insists she's ready in her usual dermoplastic garment, but the doctor lets her hair down and suggests something a bit more date-like. Seven eventually opts for one of the doctor's programmed outfits and heads to Chez Sandrine. There, Chapman waits at the bar, and Seven, now dressed to impress, joins him. They sit for a drink and awkwardly express their mutual anxiety. Things go well enough, though Seven struggles with lobster etiquette, and a little enthusiasm on her part sends shellfish flying. When the time comes to dance, Seven's stiff, following her internal chronographic sequencer rather than the rhythm of the music. She loosens up a bit, and she could have danced all night, though things take a painful turn when her attempt at a twirl ends with Chapman nursing a torn shoulder ligament. Ready to give up, Seven reluctantly lets the doctor teach her to dance. As they sway to "Someone to Watch Over Me," it's clear the doctor is falling hard, though Seven's just doing her best to follow the beat. Act 4. Later, Neelix frantically searches for Toman and finds him in Chez Sandrine, drunk and flirting with two alien women. Neelix tries to sober him up with coffee, but Toman's already tipsy on synthahol, which to his physiology might as well be the real stuff. He's enjoying himself so much, he says he may want to leave his culture behind and indulge in the pleasures of a new life on Voyager. But that'll have to wait, because Neelix has got to get him to the mess hall on time for the reception in his honor. Meanwhile, the doctor asks Seven to accompany him to the reception, an offer she accepts as, "A date? Is this a date?" Well, yeah, apparently it's kind of a date. In the mess hall, Toman is the life of the party, much to Neelix's horror. The doctor and Seven arrive, and Tom congratulates the doctor, admitting, "You did it. and playfully reminding him of the bet. But when Seven learns about their wager, she understandably is hurt. As the Doctor scrambles to assure her that his intentions were sincere, she storms off, bumping into Toman, who is still very much in the party mood. With his eye on Seven, Toman gets belligerent, leading Chakotay and Neelix to intervene. Act 5. In sickbay, the Doctor finds a solution to Toman's synthahol problem using Seven's nanoprobes to create the missing enzymes. When they're alone, the Doctor quite sincerely apologizes for the wager he had with Tom. He says he invited Seven to the reception because he enjoys her company. He further tries to explain his feelings to her, that they've grown closer in the last few days, saying he's come to value their friendship. She agrees, though she seems oblivious to the deeper implications. Toman, deeply hungover, stumbles his way to the transporter room along with Neelix to welcome Janeway, Tuvok, and the Abbot back aboard Voyager. Toman still isn't quite himself and is perhaps surprised to hear the Abbot ask if he indulged in any of Voyager's pleasures, because, after all, a little sample from time to time is okay. Later, in a holodeck simulation of Cargo Bay 2, the Doctor, having grown accustomed to her face, tries to confess his romantic feelings for Seven, complete with hologram roses from the flower market. But before a holographic Seven can respond, the real Seven enters and bluntly informs the Doctor that she discontinued her search for a mate without you, leaving him visibly disappointed. Alone, the Doctor changes the program to Chez Sandrine, sitting at the piano to play Someone to Watch Over Me. Also, for no good reason, on the street where you live, I'm an ordinary man and Ascot Gavotte. The end.
I see what you were doing there with all
You saw what I did.
My Fair Lady. Little sentences. Truly, My Fair Lady, Pygmalion. Absolutely.
We remember the story. We know what happened.
Remember it.
There we go. It's kind of my habit on Mission Log. I always point out food that is being eaten on the... Of course, they name check Hasperat. So that must have felt like a little home week for you.
That did. It my ears perked up. It's like, wow, they have a Bajoran meal on the menu here. I enjoyed hearing that.
Now, in DS9, whenever they showed Hasperat, I just went like, that just looks like a turkey wrap. You know?
No, I know. And
Yeah.
what were the things that were like jellies on lollipops?
Jumja sticks.
Was it?
Jumja stick.
Jumja stick.
Yes.
Now that did look like a Jumja stick. Whatever a Jumja stick is, that
Nailed it.
word described it, right?
It did.
But Hasperat to me is brown and with lots of bits in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And spicy enough to burn your face off. Yeah,
That's right.
That's the way it goes. Tom and B'Elanna, they're having a nice, normal-looking meal. Camber goes by a little too fast to pick up the specifics, but I love the decanter, and they have very spacey-looking wine glasses. Very nice to see. Neelix walks by one of my favorite space fruits whenever, production design needed a space fruit. Go down to the market and get Buddha hands. Put those on a plate, and they look great.
And don't forget, back then, not everyone, I'm sure it's in the market much more than it was back then.
Oh, yeah.
That would have, so that was really something people wouldn't have necessarily seen.
Stuff like dragon fruit and prickly pears, and you wouldn't see them at the time. So, looked very exotic. Gotta say, leave it to B'Elanna to not use a gentle hand at all in dealing with Seven and the rather unique predicament that she is in.
But let's go back just a moment to when they're talking about the race car, and Paris says, are you sure you're up to it? Oh. And that got no response from B'Elanna. Not going, are you kidding me? I was a little shocked. That was just a little drip of 90s culture getting in there. It's like, she's an engineer. She can handle driving a car. Absolutely. I have no doubt about it.
And you think that Tom would have learned that by now?
Well, it seemed to be okay with both of them.
Yeah.
She was like, no, I can do it. So that's a little 90s amber to me.
Good point. Good point. I mean, Seven has the ability to be blunt and direct about everything And I just love the line, there is no one on Deck 9, Section 12 who doesn't know when you're having intimate relations.
I love that. And I was a little surprised that would bother B'Elanna, because it's like culturally, that's what we do.
Yeah.
As a half Klingon and maybe as a half human.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Look, if anybody is going to be embarrassed about Klingon sex, it's going to be Worf. You reserve that for him.
Yes, exactly.
You let B'Elanna be. She's a little more free, we hope. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, speaking of the opposite reaction to everything, the Puritans, the Kadi, who show up on Voyager, and as soon as they got introduced, I was just like, all right, I can't wait to see how that plays.
Can we talk about Ian for a minute? It's
Yes.
one of those faces that you go, where do I know him from? And then you realize it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just everywhere. He was so brilliant. And he's got not that much to do, and yet his presence is so grounding and so felt by me through the whole show.
It's not even just that he is so memorable and recognized, but it just even through the makeup,
He's there.
Yeah.
He is there. Yeah.
There's something really cool on Star Trek when the person comes through the prosthetics, and he truly does.
And it's usually someone who's been on stage a lot.
Yeah.
And does the whole gamut. I remember seeing him on Seinfeld, and he was so funny, so unexpectedly funny.
Yeah.
He's, and that humor comes into Star Trek to be able to play with tone, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love mentioning that gossip is endemic on Voyager. It just, I mean, how can it not be with 140-something crew? Of course. And, oh, my God, the doctor telling Seven that small talk is vital. And she says, perhaps there is something to be said for assimilation.
I wrote that sentence down as well.
How good is that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I have to say, sometimes I agree.
Yeah, right. If you just cut through the nonsense. Although it's interesting, it's only been within the last few episodes, as Mission Log has been doing this episode by episode in order, that Seven acknowledges to the Borg Queen, she has this great line, my humor is my own. And up until that point, anytime she drops a funny line, you have to kind of question, wait, does she get it? Does she not get it? And here's one of those opportunities now where you go like, yeah, she gets it.
Because it is something that you develop.
Yeah.
Even humans develop senses of humor.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Chez Sandrine returns. We'd mostly seen it during, I think, season 1 and 2, just to drop in every now and then. Sandrine herself long gone, but the holodeck simulation returns.
Now, what decade was that supposed to be from?
See,
I wanted to say 50s, but...
Yeah, that's a good question, because Tom says that he had gone to the real Sandrine when he was in Paris. So it is something contemporary to the 24th century, but...
Really?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's kind of like a Disneyland thing?
There you go. It's a themed environment in 24th century Paris to look, very much like something out of the 50s. But even in the 50s, something that was old.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it felt like a good environment to me to do this very old-fashioned romantic story. It's exactly what you would expect.
Yeah. Also, hey, just break out the old sets that we had put away. We just bring these
and everyone
out.
loves Sandrine, right?
Yeah.
They love that set. They love that environment.
Exactly. I really relate to Toman just going crazy on the food, just sitting down at the buffet. And it turns off the prayer warning,
I just have to tell you, I thought that Toman and her first try at a boyfriend, I thought they were played by the same person.
They have a similar look.
I
really do.
They were doing a Combs.
Yeah.
I thought they were doing a Jeffrey Combs, and he was out of makeup and in makeup, one actor.
That would have been brilliant, actually. That would have been really cool if they had tried that. And then you find out that both of those actors are played by Jeffrey Combs.
Yes.
That's how good he is. Yep. Uh-huh. So yeah, love Toman doing his thing. And then, oh my gosh, Seven and the Doctor, so Jerry and Bob singing in Cargo Bay 2. Bob Picardo does everything in this moment just with a look. And I love it. I mean, I feel like I will go hoarse on Mission Log saying that I love showing rather than telling. Yeah. And this is one of those moments where they show.
It totally is. And I also give credit to Robbie for directing it beautifully.
Yeah.
It's really so lovingly set up for the two of them. And let me go. What is this voice Jerry has?
I know.
What? I know about Picardo.
Yeah.
He sings, he's probably waiting in my garage right now to burst into song. But Jerry?
Yeah.
Is unbelievably beautiful voice.
They're wonderful together. They sound
just
so
gorgeous.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, the show cannot resist taking a shot at Harry as the loser in love every time. So poor guy again.
Poor Harry.
Yeah. A lot to be said about that.
That's weird.
It is.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah. And, if you continue to watch more Voyager, you will see his love life be this object of focus from the rest of the crew. And it's strange. It's really odd. And the guy needs to show some agency, but that's for another show.
Right.
I love the moment of Seven asking Chapman out. It was great dialogue and just delivered perfectly. You know.
And he's so wonderful with her. He's so natural and charming and awkward and everything all at once. It was really a lovely scene. But now, when does the bet happen? Is that now?
Yeah. I like that they introduce it later in the episode, but whether or not it's a good thing to happen, well, we'll get to that.
But Paris says something that's just, let's take a moment to lay a 90s wreath on this sentence.
Yeah.
He says her dominant personality will have him running for the airlock.
Yeah.
I remember the 90s was a time where, they just started the 24-hour news thing, and if it bleeds, it leads. And there was this very difficult, it was a difficult decade for women, and women were demonized a little bit, certainly in the media.
Yeah.
And that's like, oh, please, Paris. No.
Yeah. Well, and here's Paris dating B'Elanna, who is one of the strongest if not the strongest personality other than Janeway,
right,
on the ship.
Right. Very good point.
I'm kind of waiting for Janeway to step in and say, Tom, please, for the love of God, stop this. Yeah.
If he didn't say that, what would the bet be? Because, the doctor would go, no, she's going to do this. And Paris would go, yeah, she probably will. She's so gorgeous. Why there won't be an issue.
Right.
So, of course, it's just a little bit manufactured to me.
It is. It is exactly that. I mean, look, when you're dealing with Seven of Nine, the difficult thing always is she's gorgeous. She's also the smartest one in the room at all times. So you have these incredibly high things to play to, but at the same time, this vulnerability, this lack of experience, which are great to explore her humanity. But when a character reacts like that and goes like, oh, he'll be terrified or run away. Come on, Tom, really, get it together. You mentioned things stuck in the 90s. Always have to point out the costumes. I think Seven's dress, look, you can speak to this. I don't think Star Trek always gets civilian clothes right. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're not.
Tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
To project what it's going to be or what it's going to look like, do justice to the actor that's wearing it, make it in how fast did they make all that stuff?
Of course, yeah.
So and fittings and so I have some empathy there for all of that. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It looks a little woolly
Yeah,
dress.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that,
Hot.
yeah, I think that dress could be recreated in a way that makes it. Now, Chapman, though, he just looks like he's wearing upholstery. And most of the time when I see Jake on DS9, I go, they found upholstery and they made a sweater.
Aren't you going to be shocked when you find out that we're all couches in the 24th century?
That's it.
And they were right all along.
Just couches as far as the eye can see. That's it. All right, the date is fun. I think it's funny without being really over the top because they're both playing it down a little bit. They're playing their nervousness and they're not just over the top goofy with it. The lobster bit is good. It feels earned. Poor Chapman getting his arm twisted around. These are all funny moments that I think lead up to this incredible payoff, which is just closing on that dance. And here's, again, to Robbie as a director, just let the moment happen. Don't let the camera get in the way. Don't let dialogue get in the way. Nothing. Just let the moment happen and then fade out on that.
And Picardo does such a beautiful job of that. I just have to go back to the lobster.
Oh, please.
Because
Yeah.
someone with an exoskeleton, looking at a meal with an exoskeleton, I thought Jerry just did a very quick, shocked look at, this is inhumane.
Yes.
But I guess I'm supposed to.
Yeah. That was, she did a great take there. You know what I thought of? I thought of the scene from Splash, whereas Daryl Hannah and Tom Hanks, and she picks up the lobster and just takes a bite out of it.
That's
She
right.
doesn't know what to do with it. Yeah.
Yep.
I thought about Toman's story like this is Rumspringa for the Kadi.
But Rumspringa, they know what they're doing.
At least it's codified, yes.
That's the thing. And this was like, I'm going off the rails and I'm going to do all this stuff. So I guess, do you feel like that was to make us feel like, this is something, it heightens the drama of it, I guess, instead of having it just be a funny thing to watch.
Of course. Yeah, to give it a little bit of layer of reality for them, you know. I like the scene in the reception. I think the hologram jokes, okay, nicely done in universe.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I like the doctor's admission, you know, photons and force fields, flesh and blood, why quibble over details? I'm just as real as any of you. Perfect for a character who, from the beginning of Voyager, as soon as he was activated, even by the captain, looked down upon as a lesser than being because he is a hologram. Toman's intoxication catches up with him as he's muttering 7 of mine and assimilate me from the exam bed.
That 7 of mine, I imagine the audience going, why didn't I think of that?
Exactly. Which I think at this point, I want to say that is now a song lyric by one of the many Trek-themed bands out there. I think it's the name of a drink. I mean, I there's so many things that have adopted that.
Good.
Yeah. The Abbott and Toman, you mentioned again how great Ian is in this, and his look at Toman it says it all. And just, again, without an exuberance of dialogue, just, hey, you know, sometimes we get to have some fun.
Yes, and one thing I do like is that intergenerational exchange where the older person gets to go, been there, done that. Mm-hmm. I do like that. Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah. So that there's some kind of, it's a drip drop of mentorship, but I'll take it where I can get it.
Yeah, exactly. I do have to say, you know, the one thing in Star Trek all the time, everybody's got a holodeck or a holosuite, and it seems like nobody rings the doorbell when they walk in. 7 has the decency to do that. Wait, I believe Kira walked into a holosuite without ringing the doorbell.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and discovered the fantasy version of Kira in Quark's holodeck. Yeah. So see, now you know. Doorbell would have saved that whole embarrassment.
A lot of embarrassment is saved by just checking first, especially if it's Quark, for God's sakes.
I compute a high probability that after this episode, Lieutenant Chapman will return to the Jeffries tube until Voyager gets back to Earth.
We'll get right back to Someone to Watch Over Me after a word from this week's sponsor.
You know, the issue with these huge tech companies is that they don't just want your money. They want to know everything about you. Data brokers are out there compiling profiles of your online activity and selling them to marketers like they're trading latinum on Ferenginar. So when it comes down to it, they're not selling a product. They're selling you.
But there's a way to stop that. It's an app called ExpressVPN. One of the easiest ways data brokers track you is through your device's unique IP address, which even gives away your location. That's how they monitor and monetize your browsing history.
With ExpressVPN, though, your IP address is hidden, like activating a cloaking device. It makes it much harder for those shadowy data brokers to keep tabs on what you're doing online.
Exactly. And not only that, ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of your network traffic. That's a huge relief when you're on public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop or a hotel. You don't want anyone intercepting your data while you're paying your bills or logging into your bank account.
Yeah, I use ExpressVPN on my phone, on my iPad, and my computer, especially when I'm traveling. I even set up an automation on my phone to make sure that it connects to ExpressVPN automatically whenever I'm on public Wi-Fi. Whether it's at a hotel, airport, or random cafe, I know my sensitive info is safe.
It's super easy to use. Just tap one button and boom, you're protected. And it works on all your devices, from your phone to your laptop and even your tablet. It's peace of mind with zero effort.
So don't let these companies sell you. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/missionlog. That's expressvpn.com/missionlog, and you can get an extra 3 months for free. expressvpn.com/missionlog.
Go check it out and stay secure out there.
So, Nana, in the last segment, we were talking about Toman in particular and his arc, his story. And I realized that that is the B plot. That's not really what this episode is about. But I want to stick with him just for a little bit.
All right.
Because there's something really fun about him, just watching somebody lose control and give into temptation, but in this sort of very pure way. You know, he's not like getting addicted to drugs or anything. He's getting addicted to pudding. But I like this idea that I think it's provocative that his id gets to run around and be free a bit while nobody is watching. Because to me, I think of the Kadi as being this obviously very conservative, very regimented, very orthodox society. And they're probably like this to each other. They have this cultural expectation of each other that they act in a certain way. But then behind closed doors, well, maybe they're really not. Maybe Toman just didn't get the memo about that. What do you think?
That's what it seems to be. But that whole concept is hard for me to understand. It's like we're one way, and it's like if you have a people, if the Kadi believe these things, and, you know, it's almost like not being true. It's a comment on a culture to me. If you go, but no one can actually do all of that. We have to go off and indulge somewhere. Yeah. I feel like that's a very, I'm from a culture that isn't restrictive. So from my point of view, I would go, but you can't do that. So there must be behind closed doors. You do stuff. Instead of a respect that this is actually what they believe and what they live. So I was like, wait, now you're having it both ways. Now, to me, I'm looking at his experience going, oh, boys will be boys, and you'll overindulge in sex and liquor and all these things. Where's the meaning? What is the meaning? What is the meaning for us? And how does it, I love when B storylines give us a little extra weight, a little extra floor to the A storyline, where you go, okay, this is supporting the idea. Right. And it seems like we have love and romance and then just overindulgence over here. That is that at the end of the day, it's like, no, we're wiping it clean because actually they all do that. Instead of is having to go back and deal with something. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let me phrase it a little bit different way. And I say this with the respect to our audience that, I'm not picking on one particular set of beliefs or religious practice or whatever. So you can take and leave this as much as you want. But I know that there are, cultural and religiously influenced cultural beliefs that say, like, okay, we identify this way, so we all believe a certain set of things, But then realistically, when it comes to actual behavior, the actual behaviors don't always align with the stated beliefs. And I think what's fun to me about Toman is that he's almost, he's like the Uber Kadi. He's, the ones who have been around for a while, like the abbot, and the ones who have maybe lived a little fuller life, they're sort of a little more relaxed into it. And they say, look, the belief is the belief. Yes, we adhere to it. Yeah, but in practice, we can't expect everybody 24/7 to toe this very specific line. Toman seems a little wet behind the ears. He's a little fresh. And he's like, well, I'm working for the abbot now. I got to show him how pious and how true to the belief I am. But then realistically, he's going to fall off the wagon here in a place like this. So maybe this is brand new. Maybe he hasn't had the opportunity to indulge yet.
So our takeaway is it's human.
Yeah, he's very human. Yeah, like all good aliens on Star Trek, they're very human.
Very human.
Right?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I hear that.
All right, well, let's get into our A story here, because I feel like there's a lot to unpack with 7 of 9. I mentioned it a moment ago that Voyager has this problem of spending an awful lot of energy and an awful lot of focus on somebody like Harry Kim. And anytime he has a romantic interlude, everybody has to know about it. Everybody has an opinion about it. They have something to say about it. And now 7's personal life is everybody's concern here. At the same time, she's sort of making a project out of it. She's bringing up the crew manifest. She's doing the logical scientific thing, picking people. And to be fair, she is a new human. So there is that underlining all of this. But, but she's, like I said before, she's a grown woman. She's the smartest one in the room. And I also feel like, I don't want to say she needs to be treated with kid gloves, but 7's background story is one of violation of her very personhood. So I'm a little torn about what's going on in this story. I don't think it's wrong or bad to explore her personal side, her potential love life. All of that's great. I also feel like maybe there's a layer of protection here that isn't being honored. What do you think? Or maybe it's just the cringiness of the bet.
Well, no, I think, with all these Pygmalion stories, and this is one of them, the interesting thing to me is that a man teaches a woman how to be a woman, how to be performatively female, and that has to be from his point of view of how he wants her to be, that she isn't just looked at as this is the way you are. She's got to be molded by a man. So that's kind of, that's something that I look at. And I also look at the fact that the lyrics of Someone to Watch Over Me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the woods. I know I could always be good to one who'll watch over me. Now, I think that the doctor projects onto her that this is what she wants. And he does the best he can teaching what he knows. I mean, he's AI. So, he's got limited storage, whatever has been put in there. But she's no little lamb, and a lot of women don't wish. We're not a monolith and wish to have someone watching over us.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, and she has no arc in this show. She does not change, which is great. She doesn't change. She isn't affected. She's not upset. She goes through it. It's uncomfortable. But yet, in the end, she goes, no.
Right.
She shows deep friendship to the doctor by giving him a gift, but she doesn't feel like she owes him anything. She doesn't feel like now she's got to start dressing differently to please everybody on the ship. And that to me is really great. He's the one who has a huge arc. He is the one that when he's sitting there and singing Someone to Watch Over Me, it's like, oh, it wasn't about her. He wants someone to watch over him. He wants the relationship. He feels lost sometimes, maybe. And I thought that made it very beautiful.
Yeah, I agreed. And very often episodes like this kind of sneak up on you where you think it's one thing, but then as you so aptly put it, really that idea is about the Doctor and about his arc in becoming more human. Is that where he's headed?
I think as humans, how we grow ourselves is to become more complex. Mm-hmm. And I think on that basis alone, he does become more human because he becomes more complex. He maybe sees that being human is more, you can't just, it's as if he was given movies from the 1950s to the 1990s, this Doctor. Yeah. And learned about romance and learned about what a woman is supposed to be and flowers ends fight. And that's what he tried to give her, what he knew. He's AI. He's, he can only know what he knows. And this took him to a place of going, it's not just the lessons that I was trying to teach her. It's this ephemeral, painful, vulnerable place to take a chance to be human, to reach out to another one.
Well, this is a really provocative idea because, well, you've been talking about the show kind of being stuck in this 90s amber. And a scene like that of the Doctor showing Seven what it means to look dateable, change your hair, change your costume. Even in the 90s, I hope, I feel like that is a somewhat dated concept that we've seen over and over. And, the librarian takes off the glasses and shakes her hair and suddenly she's the most beautiful woman in the world.
Exactly. No, I don't think it was dated back then. I think it was still pretty much accepted. Yeah. But looking back now, we can say, well, he's AI.
Yeah, he's AI. And like you said, he only gets the programming that he has. He only understands that much. What I think is so nice here, and as, again, you mentioned it, he has the arc. He has the story here. There's something very genuine about his reaction. There's something very real about his heartbreak. I feel it at the end of the episode for him. He puts himself out there, but then he backs off when he learns that it's not right, and that's a hard pill to swallow, but my God, did that hit home, Yeah. And you hope that the next day he's a better hologram for it, right?
I think he's a more complex hologram for sure.
Now, the tough thing about being a hologram, though, is that he could, in theory, just go in and remove that memory, just remove that bit of heartbreak and say, oh, 7 of 9 and I were friends. I'm kind of a mentor to her. And then I helped her learn about love. Skip, skip, skip. And now we're friends again.
Wouldn't that be great to be able to, don't you wish sometimes you were a hologram?
It would be awful because...
It would be awful in the end. Yeah. But at the time, when you're...
When
you're suffering, it would be so great to go, I'm just going to remove this and... and move on. Yeah.
And there are episodes where the Doctor has tried to do that, but other episodes where he realizes, as Kirk said in Star Trek V, I need my pain. Like my pain is part of what makes me who I am.
Yeah.
So I have to have that, as difficult as it may be.
It's what makes you a real boy.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, so I feel for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Even that, and again, here's this great thing about Star Trek, taking not just a character who isn't human, but a character who isn't even flesh and blood. They're just saying he's memories, he's a hard drive projecting photons, but it makes you, the audience, feel for his story.
And for humans like that, you can look at a relative or a father who has outdated ideas and you go, wait a minute, he was programmed a certain way, and, you know, maybe he needs to be to understand a few things, but you can understand the human feeling of going, I got it wrong. I got it wrong. And give someone the grace of learning.
Yeah. And I do just want to bring it back to Seven a little bit here, because there was a nugget that they dropped to us a few episodes ago where she and B'Elanna are having a heart-to-heart, such as it is, such as B'Elanna is willing to hear it, where Seven says something along the lines of, monogamous relationships are inefficient, unnecessary. Why would I do that? Which, as you said, without an arc, without any growth here for her, which works for the episode, we have to assume she's just back to the same position she had before, which is, this isn't going to work. And look, maybe she'll stumble into something one day on her own, and that's fine. It's a little weird to me to have all the crew invested in what she's doing and all the crew invested in her love life. But if she says to B'Elanna, like, I'm not interested, this has no appeal for me, I don't get it, then I think everybody else around her could easily just back off and say, it's not for her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's so irresistible, especially when you're on a ship with people for how many years?
There's only 140 something of them, and it's a long time to be away from home.
If your date dismantles the lobster like a mobster, you don't have much room to be surprised that she can do the same to your arm.
Well, we did our jobs. We analyzed and picked apart another episode of Voyager. I would say that we were good stewards, that we watched over this episode as best we can. And,
very nice.
Thank you. I didn't have another My Fair Lady lyric at my disposal. It didn't just, overture doesn't work.
No.
Right.
No.
So, as we do on the show, as we get to the end, we ask each other if the episode holds up, and we ask if we learned anything, any takeaway morals, meanings, or messages. So, Nana, with the purposely vaguely worded question, does the episode hold up, which you may interpret any way you like, I ask you, does Someone to Watch Over Me hold up?
Yes, I believe it does. To me, the meaning and depth is, and it's interesting today to look at AI and realize that they're only going to learn from the cultural crumbs we feed them. So what are we feeding them? He got 50s to 90s romantic movies, I think. So that's what he acted on. That was the best he knew, and he gave freely. And he had an arc where he learned that you can't impose you can't mistake your feelings and the thoughts in your head for what's going on in someone else's.
Perfectly said. I agree. I think this episode holds up beautifully. I think first and foremost, just from a production standpoint, it is acted so well. And, Brannon, it is. And Brannon, who has this well-deserved reputation as a writer who likes to go weird and likes to do stories with body horror and jump scares and hard science fiction concepts, the guy can also come up with stories that are deeply human. And this is one of those stories where, in the Star Trek tradition, take two of your least human characters and explore humanity through them. And I
love that about Star Trek.
Right.
It's just one of the best things about Star Trek.
I hate to break it to our audience, and I hate to break it to you, but, as we often say, there is no Voyager, there is no Janeway, there is no Seven of Nine. all of the stories and all of the characters are us. So that's why we're still here talking about them so many years later.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think if we were to fault this for anything, of course, the My Fair Lady aspect of it, yes, it strains our idea of the enlightened 24th century. But then, I didn't point out Tom is the one, probably the least evolved out of the crew, who comes up with it. So if we're going to go with it, we got to make Tom the instigator here.
What he says is not evolved. What he does is very evolved.
Yes.
Actually, from all the shows I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
His behavior is really interesting in his relationship with B'Elanna. It's just what he says. And sometimes characters are given lines to say to move things along.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to revert Tom to season 1 Tom in order to push a story like this along.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will give the episode credit of realizing, I think the show is on our side. The show is on the side of the audience who realizes, it's kind of a cringy thing to do. And this is a little weird to be this obsessed with her personal life, with Seven's personal life, because it's all in service, as you say, of the Doctor's arc. This very relatable, romantic, heartbreaking story that we just get. And then the insult of having to go back to work as if nothing happened. That's...
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced that too, where something profound happens and then you just have to get on the next day as if, just right back where I started.
But very well said that Seven is in service to the Doctor's story, and that really is true. But the fact that she doesn't change, that she's not horrified or worried about herself, but there's no doubt it was such a dated thing. Her hair coming down, the Doctor saying take his arm as her date takes her to dinner. He's got to leave during the dance. It's just all very
right.
It's stuff that I hope in the 24th century anyway we're doing in a different way.
Yeah. No, all good points, except no, he's got to lead that dance because she.
Well, this is from a woman who always leads. Yeah. So just warning you, John, if we're on the ship sometime and we're dancing, I'm going to lead.
I need lessons, so I'm coming to you, all right? I really do. And then B-plot with Toman, Scott Thompson is just so great. And sometimes a guest star stands out in the wrong way, where you just kind of see right through to the actor. And here he's perfect in this broad character. And look, sometimes Star Trek does humor very well, sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like here they play it just up to the line, but you can also get a little sympathy for the guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought he played it the tone was just right.
Yeah. So now let's come to our morals, meanings, messages. For the B-plot, I mean, look, I don't think it's super heavy there. I'm just sort of entertained by the idea that if you keep repressing what you desire, it's just going to come right back and bite you. What about you?
To me, it was like boys will be boys. That's not so interesting to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it talk about meaning and, it's like, make it mean something that he did it. It meant nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess you could say, as you argued before, it's really Ian's character that is going, I'm older, I'm wiser, I'm not towing the line. I'm, the way you are. I'm not being this strict for the rules. It's life. These are things we live to try to be, not always will be.
Yeah.
But that's not really the way I saw it. But I can't understand. I can see what you said.
Yeah, no.
So I can make that argument with you, but still I go, if it was a rum spring, like you said, codify it.
Yeah. Maybe we come back to their planet in 5 years and Toman is like, no, seriously, everybody, you got to try the pudding. It'll change your life. That's
they're
what they... Yes, they're all pudding addicts by the time we get back. Now, moving on to the A plot, though, I mean, yeah, the story isn't Seven's story. The thing that I resent is just the idea of making a person your project. That's a little weird. Not like Seven doesn't have things to learn. Not like Seven isn't interested. It's just odd to make her the project. But really, what we're supposed to learn here, we're on the Doctor's journey. And what I really admire about all of this is the sincerity and the depth of his emotions. And this attitude that he has of, well, look, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I am going to experiment with this idea of a romantic relationship, an actual human experience. And then at the end of that, the sort of failure to launch of that, I really feel it. I think we all really feel it when his heart is broken. But then he does the right thing. He apologizes for what he did. He realizes that she isn't interested, that she is not his project or his property, or
steps back.
He is not her obligation. And he doesn't push that. And he doesn't make it weird for her. He needs to go through this on his own. And that's sincere and adult and evolved. And that's a great place to see our Doctor. What about you?
No, I agree. It's adding to the complexity of this character, and it happens to be AI, and that's very interesting. How far can you go? How far can we go? How much are we going to feel empathy for AI characters as they grow in their complexity? So I think it's, just on that too, it's a very contemporary question. Also, the falling in love with AI and AI thinking that they exist just as much as flesh and bone, and so I have a right to have relationships. There are interesting questions in there.
Yeah. I mean, I would get back to the point of thinking that if we can't tell the difference, whether it's an AI on the other side or a human being on the other side, then at that point, the question is just academic. The experience for you on the other side is the same. So the Doctor's emotions, are they real or not? Well, I mean, they may be artificially induced. They may be manufactured, but they're having real world implications. So,
but again, there's that lesson again of don't assume, don't project what you think this person is. Let them show you who they are. Let them be who they are and deal with them on that level.
Yeah.
The minute we start to, and it's what we humans do, we project really fast what we assume. We make shortcuts in our brain and do this work, and that's when we get heartbroken.
The Doctor is entirely too human. Nana, thank you for joining me today. Mission Log is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. If you would like to support us directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog for early access to shows and the Mission Log Discord. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com. And for more Star Trek news and discussion, visit trekmovie.com.
On the next Mission Log, 11:59.
Some of the music for Mission Log provided by Warp 11, online at warp11.com. Special thanks to consulting producers Matt Esposito, Homer Frizzell, Rand Hurl, Tom Kozak, Julie Miller, Mike Richards, Mike Shadwell, Paul Shadwell, and David Takechi. If a single space burrito sends you on a 24-hour bender, maybe your society needs to give up on the sensory deprivation. End transmission.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.